LinkedIn Live, and I've got my special guest star, Jenny Maxwell. If you don't know her, you really should. If you're serious about LinkedIn and meeting some of the best people on it, Jenny's definitely in that group. And to start out, what we're all focused on or should be is 2023 and what is everybody doing to get off to the best start, the fastest start you can. And I thought we'd use this session to kind of share a little bit of our context and perspective on moving forward. And to jump right into it, well, Jenny, why don't you say hello before we jump and share who you are and kind of what you're into.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you again for having me, Don. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. My name is Jenny Maxwell. I'm a personal development coach, and I work with people to nudge them out of their comfort zones while restoring their self-worth. And that's like what I love about working with people who are feeling stuck or have limiting beliefs and are getting in their own way. Because when we discover that we're in fact the biggest obstacles in our personal development and growth, then we get to own it and change. So that's what I'm all about, Don.
Well, that's great. And that fits right in with the topic of the day, because part of getting your strategy right for 2023 is getting your mindset right, getting your attitude aligned with the opportunity that you're working with. And step one, I would suggest, and I'm trying to keep it real easy, but very, very important and powerful, is taking inventory. And by the way, chat's open. Thank you, Poonam. You're here pretty much every day, so I appreciate it. And anybody else who wants to join in chat, wants to be recognized, even if it's just sharing who you are, where you're from, love to have you on. It really makes a difference, much more interesting and entertaining. So thank you. Again, first step, take inventory. You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been, in a sense, or you don't know where you are at least. And the best thing to do is look back at the first of this year, right? See what you were doing, see who you were doing it with, and then see where you are today, and you'll see the progress. You'll see the things you take for granted, because most people somehow remember negative things and kind of accept or take for granted a lot of positive things. It's like watching a kid grow. If you see one every year, you can see the difference. If you're living with them, you don't notice it every day. So taking where you are today from where you are when you started the year and kind of give yourself a sense of that. What do you think about that, Jenny? You think that's a good approach?
I think it's a great approach, especially when you're coming from a place of positivity. I think what gets in the way for people is there's so many people on here comparing themselves to others. So if you have started a LinkedIn journey this year and you're following people who have 25,000 followers or 100,000 followers or whatever the case may be, that actually might be making you feel a little depleted, because you feel in some way that you're less than, that you're not doing as well as you could be. And that's completely demoralizing and demotivating, because the truth of the matter is, Don, at least from my perspective, I don't really know what those numbers actually mean. And if they're translating to clients, because I know I certainly can't coach 25,000 clients at once, right? So if you can slow it all down and, as you say, recognize the growth in the past year and what has gone well and what you can celebrate about yourself, and bearing in mind that comparison is the thief of joy. So if you can,
such a good saying.
Well, it's the truth. I didn't invent that saying, by the way. I can't claim it, but it really hit me because I feel like I had been comparing myself with other people all of my life. And as a result, feeling like I was never good enough. And that's certainly what I notice in working with clients is most of my clients, the essence of what's keeping them stuck is perfectionism, because they're comparing themselves to somebody who's been there, done that, seems to be doing really well. And the truth is, we don't even know for sure if they are doing really well, we're just busy looking at their profiles or looking at their posts and thinking to ourselves, they're doing way better than I am. And that, like I said, it is demoralizing. So I encourage anybody who's listening today to be your own biggest champion and to look for the win, however big or small. If you started in January of 2022 and you engaged with 10 people and now you're engaging with 100 people or 50 people or 5,000 people, that's huge growth, and good for you for doing so.
Yeah, that's very, very important, is to put things in perspective and context. Maybe you're in the third year of a 5-year program, right? If you went to medical school, you'd know how many years it would take and what year you were in and what to expect from it. And LinkedIn, they don't give you a rule book when you get on here or a roadmap. And really, the key is how have you changed also as you've changed with LinkedIn, and knowing that if you change from last year to now, you're going to change again. The question is, who's going to make the changes and what changes are they going to be? And if you believe in the opportunity enough that it's bigger than you are, then you can reinvent yourself for 2023. You don't have to be the same you. You could bring a better you. You could examine yourself maybe from a distance. And I think the key element when you're doing the plan is to bring life balance into it. So it's just not enough to be successful at LinkedIn, and that's a challenge in itself, but how does it integrate with who's most important and what's most important in your life? And that should be a key element, because no matter what the numbers are, no matter what the money is, happiness should always be the rule, should be the measure. To say at the end of the day, did I really feel proud of what I did? Am I proud of myself? Are people proud of me? Because pride is something you earn, by what you do and by other people's thoughts of you. So when you make your plan, why not make it a big plan? Why not make it a bold plan? Why not make it exciting to look at? You know what I mean? And at that point, if you finally buy into it, all the barriers go away. If all you think there's a small distance between you and everything you ever wanted, what would you endure for that small amount of time or distance to get to the other side? And I think that's the more human side of LinkedIn planning. So it's not just strategy, but it does take that into consideration. I made a few notes, and part of the inventory is, what did you learn this year, right? Who did you come away with as your now core group of collaboration versus what it was? And then, have you plateaued? Have you reached a point where no matter what you do, you get about the same result? And that seems to be very sensible, because whatever you do, if you keep doing it, you should be getting whatever you get when you do it. And if you change things, and it could be just small things, like LinkedIn Live, I didn't have a clue a year ago I'd ever even do a LinkedIn Live. And I didn't know how to do it. And you have to understand, you got to give yourself credit for not knowing, because the beauty is you don't have to unlearn a bad habit or leave something to get something. You're starting fresh. So, what do you think about all this balance stuff, Jenny?
Well, I think balance is the key. I think you touched on so many things. I'm like trying to remember everything that you said. But one of the biggest things I think that affects people from taking that step forward, like as you said, you weren't even doing LinkedIn Lives a year ago. It's important to fall forward, and fear will keep you stuck. Fear of failure. If you're worried about what somebody else might think of you for doing something, then that's a good reason to keep yourself safe, if that's your mindset. But what if the opposite of that is actually true? What if it's not a good reason to keep yourself safe? What if it's not a good reason to stay where you are? Because on the other side of that fear is growth. So I encourage people to fall forward. Give something a try. It's, especially if it's not life or death, put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being burnt toast and 10 being death. So you try a LinkedIn Live and it doesn't go really well. So what? You learn something new, you'll have created something new, you might try it again and it could work out beautifully. And it could be far easier doing these than trying to create posts every single day. Because I think some people struggle with content creation.
Mhm.
I think it's hard to keep things interesting. And for me, that was something like a few weeks ago, I started to switch things up. I started to look at LinkedIn and imagine there are actually lots of different options than just posting a photograph every day and trying to write content. You have polls, you have LinkedIn lives, you can make carousels. There's so many different things. You can post videos. You've lots of different options to keep that creative spark alive for yourself. Does every post hit the mark? Maybe not, but some will, and it's okay to keep trying. I encourage people to keep trying and think of failure as, it's not failure, it's feedback. How might I do something differently the next time? What might I learn if I give this a go? Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And what I'd like to add to that, I like the idea of falling forward for yourself is also experiencing falling backward into somebody who supports you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, so you got you got much better range, and I think that's the key is when you're alone, when you have fear, tends to go away when you have trusted company, right? When you have someone who cares, someone who supports you, and it works both ways, and that's the collaboration you want to grow. And to your point, which was excellent on posting, after doing LinkedIn Live every day for like 7 months now, and I'm talking about every day, 7 days a week. And actually, yesterday's LinkedIn Live was my best ever, and it just took time to get there, and then you have little downtimes. But getting back to posting, I now find it to be kind of a shy approach to LinkedIn, where you're letting content speak for you, even though you created it. And with that content, it's going to create awareness, appreciation, respect, understanding, whatever attributes it may do. Is I'd rather just talk directly in real time to real people when everybody is where everybody is, right? You drop a package off today, it changes tomorrow, based on how someone received it or whatever. So really look another level or two down. A lot of people are looking a step or two ahead again, but go a little deeper instead of wider sometimes, and it gets richer. And advertise and promote yourself as a trusting, honest, giving person. What I learned about LinkedIn is givers get. And that's two words. So it's easy to appreciate and understand. And why do givers get? Because they earn what they get by what they gave. And that could be just gratitude. That could be just anything. People start thinking, how do you convert everything into a dollar? And you can't, right? Just like you can't convert everything into energy, right? You can't just take an object and say, give me power. And the same thing with that. So have fun with it. The other thing I'd like to bring into the plan is ask yourself, how much money did you make with LinkedIn net? And what that means is whatever income you generated, what was your expense in generating it financially? But more than that, what was your time investment this year? Right?
There it is. The time investment for, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was huge for me a few months ago. And I realized how much of my time and energy I was giving to LinkedIn, and it was suddenly becoming my job. And I'm like, why am I so depleted by this? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just spending so much time on here, and it's not my job. It's a platform to showcase my skills as a coach. It's a platform to share my knowledge. It's a platform to reach other people and help them feel less alone in something, right? It's a platform to give, but it is not my job. And coming back to balance, that is where I noticed the imbalance was beginning to really show up for me. And my family, I mean, it was my youngest son said to me one day, "Are you ever going to have a day off, Mom?" I was like, oh dear. Oh dear. This is not what I want to be teaching my kids. I want to be leading by example and creating clearer boundaries, because my work is my work as a coach, which I love, and I'm never depleted by it. So, you know, going back to what you say about balance, it's vital, and it's the key to feeling less stress, more energy, and having time to kind of use that good energy with people that you love and people that you care about, not feeling so depleted by the end of like 7 straight hours on LinkedIn. I didn't ever have 7 straight hours on LinkedIn, but some people might, you know?
Well, I have, and what I learned is, just like you, LinkedIn needs to complement what I already have in place.
What do you mean?
Well, family to me always comes first, right? And good health and fun and happiness is right up there. So if, you know, it's like adding a tower, another floor. So when you add LinkedIn to it, does it make what's already there better for being with it? So that's,
true.
You know, so that's really, and I think it's an important point when you're planning, remember your priorities. And, you know, and whatever your priorities are, you should follow them. Right? So if someone says, I just want to be a thought leader, I don't care about making money, I just want to share content, that's all right. That's what you should do. And, you know, when you look at the monetization, when you count up the hours you put in, let's say you put in 2 hours a day, five days a week, that's 10 hours a week. That's 500 hours a year. Right? Now, if you're just going to make $20 an hour, and you could do that pretty easily today in retail or fast food, that's $10,000 worth of time that was guaranteed to you if you just stood and did something, right? Didn't have to think about it, didn't have to prepare it, just had to show up and be there and do what you had to do and leave. So you've actually, and that's a $20 an hour fee, right? If you ask yourself, what are you charging for your services? And then what time are you taking away from other things that you could have been doing? That number could get very significant, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or greater. And at that point, what did you get for it? Because if you wrote a check at the beginning of the year for $50,000, I don't think you'd wait till the end of the year to see how it worked out. You know, some of yours, we've got some comments. Well, here's one. Poonam first saw, but your thoughts help me, keep me, help and support. Well, that's very nice. Poonam's actually a lawyer back in India. And then Helen, as I'm very good to help people at why and how we are all stars to nimbly from the right teams. Would you like an interactive that I invite you to? If you're pleased with it, we will post it. And that's nice of you to have a LinkedIn Live and to also support other people's LinkedIn Lives. And I think that's so valuable, is everybody on the show has taken some time, some thought, and some effort to be here instead of somewhere they could have already been. And if people can network here, get to meet people, get to help each other, you know, that just makes the numbers on this show even better, even though you'll never see those numbers. You know, and I think what everybody needs is a place, and everybody needs a person, right? And you got to ask yourself, I think, to your last point, when you're doing a plan, is what tools haven't you used that maybe you should start? You know,
or you could start. I mean, I must say, I just put this on a post, on somebody's post earlier today. That word should, I really don't like it, because on some level we're kind of shaming ourselves for not doing something. And you made a great point a few minutes ago about the reason some people are on LinkedIn. Maybe it's just to be here, and it's a social interaction with other people, and they're happy to give content, but they're not really looking for anything. They're not really building a business or anything. They're just there because they'd like to support others, and that's perfectly fine, right? And again, to your point about LinkedIn Lives, you love them, but they may not work for other people, and that's okay too. If you're a person who loves to create posts every day and that's what works for you, great, have at it. All we're talking about here is that we actually have more options than perhaps we are considering. And it's great to have options. It's great to have something, if you like to switch things up and try something new, this is a great place to do it because there are so many ways to reach people. And if you're interested in stretching and growing as a creator or as a business person or whatever the case may be, this is a great platform to do it.
Oh, absolutely. And I value your point. And to add to it, there's 830 million people registered on LinkedIn. There's got to be, and there is somebody for everything and everybody. So the key is not to expand the width of your door to let more people in. It's to distill your message so people can identify exactly who you are and what you're seeking. Right? LinkedIn is a marketplace. You go there every day and you pick up things, or you try to acquire things or engage people or whatever it is. But it's you who decides why you're going there, and why you're going there is something everybody should know who wants to get with you.
Yes,
Right?
I love that. I love that so much. And that was a mistake I made for months on here, is that I was trying to reach everybody. I didn't know what I was trying to do, quite honestly. I was showing up and it felt relentless. I'm like, oh my gosh, the engagement is so low. And my messaging, I felt like I was trying to cater to everybody's needs. And it was somebody saying to me that what you want to do here, Jenny, is attract and repel. I was like, what do you mean by that? You want to attract the people that are your ideal people, your community, people who your posts and whatever you're creating on here, it resonates deeply with them. And you want to repel the people who are not your people and that they don't belong in your community. And that really lifted such a weight off of my shoulders. Well, suddenly I was perfectly okay with being me, with my message, and attracting people who really wanted to learn from me and work with me. And it was okay for that number to be small. It was perfectly okay to start here and start nurturing something beautiful. So that attract and repel, we can use it in life. We don't have to use it just in LinkedIn. We can let go of anything and anybody that's trying to keep us small. And it's like clearing the clutter. I think we talked about this before. You clear the clutter and you make way for something new. That's wonderful. And it's on your terms.
Well, that's beautiful. And, I think if you look at it, it's no different than having a collection, right? If you collected teacups or thimbles, and you had a place on your wall for them, you would only fill that cabinet or that shelf with things that were special to you. Doesn't mean they have to have a lot of value. And if you're going to, let's say, in a good way, collect people, engage people, aggregate people, make them such a wonderful target that's all you're going to be working with. And all of a sudden your work becomes joy. And usually when you're frustrated on LinkedIn, it's because of somebody who shouldn't have been engaging with you who has. Somebody who doesn't understand or whatever, and that's your responsibility and allows accountability. If you go to the market and you pick up a chicken when you were looking for a lamb chop, right? What do you tell everybody when you get home? And the same thing on LinkedIn. If you end up with a chicken instead of a lamb chop, who went shopping and who advertised what they were looking for. I think when you come from a place of abundance, and I always look at it like I've got a full slate already, and I don't need to add anything to it unless it can optimize what I have or replace what isn't working like it used to, or like like it should. So just like a car, if you got a bad muffler, you don't fix everything, including the muffler. You just go to where the challenge is and you meet it. And there's something to taking proactive action that makes you proud, knowing that it wouldn't have happened unless you did something, right? You created something that wasn't going to be there unless you got involved and activated it. And then if you take that one more step to people and you say, hey, I could really become a spark plug for this person. I could really ignite this person, and I believe everybody has greatness within them. They just need to know where to look and how to bring it out.
It starts with a belief, because it's all very well how many times we're told from the outside, you can do it, you've got this. If we don't believe that ourselves, then it's never going to work out for us. That belief has to come from within, because our beliefs create our experiences, and then our experiences confirm our beliefs. If we believe something's not going to work out, then it's probably not going to work out. And then we are absolutely right about our belief.
Yeah, and it just reinforces it. Just want to recognize Fabian. Fabian's a very, very well-accomplished LinkedIn, I would almost call him an expert. He's from London, and we've talked before, and really appreciate Fabian coming on the show. This is starting to really take off. And what it shows is if your belief is big enough, you don't question what you're doing to achieve it. You just work harder if it's getting tougher. You know what I mean? You just get stronger. And it works, because it has worked and it always will work, is the people who have a defined mission and have a unbreakable belief in that. That's when the impossible starts to become possible.
It's so true, Don. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I want people to really consider, though, that this is possible at any stage in your life. You can update your belief system at any stage. You can go for, half of your life feeling underconfident and not sure about yourself and doing all that outer game work all the time, looking for validation outwardly. But if you choose to make a change and do the inner game work and let go of those limiting beliefs, let go of imposter syndrome, loosen the threads of the fear of whatever's keeping you stuck, you can actually update your belief system and get everything that you want. It starts from within, though. It definitely starts from within.
Well, and I think that brings a whole new dimension to the planning for 2023. And we talked about this last week, is your mindset, right? If you can get your mind right, then everything that you attach to is more aligned. Then a lot of times people do things to take care of something that had nothing to do with what they're doing.
It's a great distraction.
Yeah, I mean, people have money problems, end up trying to compensate somewhere. And, a lot of times people don't want to address the elephant in the room because there's something to it that they can't let go of.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is, habit, whatever. And that's when you ask or you look for help. And if I was and when you're done making the plan, here's an idea for a post. Share your plan. Say, I've just put together this plan. Here's where I'm going to be looking for help or support. Here's areas that I have questions. You use it as a poll. Make a poll and get all this feedback. You should never have a question mark today. Not with 830 million people, because someone knows something. Someone's doing something that if you knew about and how to do it, it would make sense. Well, here's Helen. She's a very fascinating lady. She's been supporting this LinkedIn Live show for quite a bit. Living our purpose of what energizes us with joy and laughter when we find our right teams. That is also what boosts our energy and immune system, and that helps us be better mates and parents. You're so right. It's holistic comprehensive approach you can take to LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Helen. That you can get excited by. You know,
It's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. And to her point about energy, in your posts, in your videos, in your lives, you want to be the energy. You want to be the energy you wish to attract. Right? Again,
so profound.
It goes back to attract and repel. How you show up, especially when you're being yourself and you have updated this belief system. You never have to pretend to be anything else when you're being yourself. And you will invite all of these people who want to run alongside you and support you and grow with you. You're inviting them to your team by being the energy you wish to attract.
Yeah,
I love what Helen said there.
Yeah, Helen, very, very, very aligned with what we're talking about. What Jenny's saying. You know, there's a saying, people hear your music more than your words. Right? So if you're excited, if you're belting out some high intensity joy, right? If you let your heart take the wheel, everything gets a lot better, because that's what's most needed today is support. But people don't trust. So now you have a need to trust, but if you don't trust, it's like someone's knocking on a door and you can't unlock it, you know, and you find yourself closed in, and that just creates more self stuff. You know, it's got to be more we than me in everything you do on LinkedIn. And it actually has to be the other person first and you one day maybe, right? So don't look for a direct payment. But here's the thing, getting back to how much did you make, in most cases, you probably lost. What do you got to lose by changing? You know, if you're making 200 grand a year on LinkedIn, you say, hey, I'm not going to throw that away on a whim. But if you say, I put 500 hours in, I invested this much money, and here's what I ended up with. And the answer could be, wow, what a great year, right? Not everybody is in the same situation, but that's where balance comes in, because everybody has a balance situation, you know. And how do you plan your personal life? How do you plan your family life? How do you plan all these things and make it something you look at? And it's like a kid on Christmas can't wait to open the presents. Can't wait for January 1st when this all begins. You know, it's like the lifeboat is here, you know, and all we got to do is get on it.
Well, Dan, going back to mindset and, you know, people who are thinking about what they might lose, well, that's a scarcity mindset. And if you want to shift from scarcity to growth, start asking yourself, what might I gain? Just like the kids, they're diving in and they're ripping open those gifts because they know they've something to gain by doing so. Kids live fearlessly, right? What might I gain if I jump on this bike with no stabilizers anymore and I just try? Yeah, I might fall off, but I'm going to get back up again because my friend up the road already knows how to ride that bike. What might I gain if I try? And start like tapping into that inner fearless child that was you all those years ago, and focus on the growth mindset versus scarcity. You have everything to gain. You have nothing to lose.
Well, you can always go back to what you were. It's not a bridge that went away. And I love your analogy with riding a bike, because if, you know, I know raising kids, what it was when they first got on their bike, when you took the training wheels off. And, you know, most of the time they'd fall because they were looking back to see if you were looking at them, you know, and it was you there that made it get up and do it again or show off. You know, it's only if you were learning by yourself and there was nobody behind you or nobody to applaud you or tell you can do it, you don't do it as well. And, you know, look at things that you have had success with. Look at people you have success with in your life, whoever they are, and what was the essence of it? And how do you recapture that? How do you create that for someone else? How do you become the person behind the bike? You know, and I think that's what Jenny can bring to anybody, is not just technical or strategy, but what the most important ingredient is, you and your future, your happiness, and everything ripples, and whatever happens to you happens to everybody around you, good or bad. So you have a responsibility to not fall down all the time after you've been up there long enough. And then you have a responsibility to get behind somebody and help them. And actively, everything changes because everybody's working together in alignment versus being a one-trick pony trying to deliver some miracle every day, and no one can do things or should do things on their own if they're on a social platform, right? If your goal is to be with people and to communicate, the best thing you can do for your time and for their time is to be clear. If you say, I'm just looking for 3 people who have these attributes, if you're the one who's choosing instead of being the one who's getting chosen, if anybody can buy someone for their time, to me, that's just too shallow, right? People should get together with people because of their thoughts, because of their intentions, and build whatever it is together once they start walking down the road together. And that will be so attractive to so many people who don't know it exists. And whoever can get in front of it, and that's why I think LinkedIn Live is great. You can do it with post, but there's something to having a active live audience that also takes this and it spreads the word, because that's really how you can get more successful, is everybody helping each other. So Jenny, this has been kind of an interesting ad hoc type of LinkedIn Live. And I think when it shows, it never matters where you start, it's where you go and where you end up. So me and Jenny could talk about any beginning subject, and that's just throwing the ball in, right? And then when it gets kicked, the game's on, and wherever it goes, it needs to go. So really, I want to thank everybody for being on the show. Feel free to share. Sharing is caring. And look forward to another LinkedIn Live with Jenny. And hope you all enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out to either one of us, share your comments and your interest. Jenny, would you like to say some wonderful words that you've already had today, add on to those?
Well, you mentioned abundance a few minutes ago, and I would love to finish just by saying in order to experience abundance, you have to notice it. So slow down. If you're in the habit of comparing yourself to somebody else, just notice what you already have. And with gratitude, celebrate your efforts.
Well, can't do anything better than what Jenny just said. So with that said, thank you so much for coming together today with us, and look forward to our next LinkedIn Live. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks.